Here we go. So welcome to the April 7th Lifeboat Academy Coordination Circle. And for some reason, Ronnie just disappeared from the screen, but they are there. They are there. You're also muted.
I'm here. Don't worry. Sorry.
Yeah. Where was I? Yes. So Coordination Circle, Lifeboat Academy, April 7th, now. And as is our custom, we usually start with a land acknowledgement. And so I will see, is anyone feeling inspired to do one today? All right. I haven't done one in a while, so I've been in groups where more and more people are stepping up and doing land acknowledgements, and it's been interesting to hear the variety of, how to approach it, and a good reminder. And I'm still going to do Norm Leach. So, because there are lots of right ways of doing a land acknowledgement. This is just one that still speaks to me. So we start with the land. We start by acknowledging the land as a reminder to ourselves that the land was here long before we were. The land was here long before we were even people, or there were people. And we only exist as people because the land, in its complex and mysterious processes, has caused us to evolve and exist. And everything that we experience and need comes from the land and will return to the land, including, as Ronnie often says, our bodies. In fact, our bodies are constantly returning to the land. And so we remind ourselves of this to keep the ego in its right place. Nothing wrong with egos, but we are part of the landscape and we are part of something that is much larger than ourselves. And so we start our meetings that way, as just a gentle reminder to keep it all in perspective. And ultimately, it is about how can we be in right relations with all our relations, and how can we learn and integrate the obligation of care that comes from recognizing that how I treat you is how I treat myself, and how I treat the land is how I treat myself. And in doing this, we are dipping into deep, deep wisdom from many different indigenous cultures, all of whom have learned how to coexist in the landscape for timeless eons, as opposed to our culture, which has wrecked the place in less than 2 centuries. So we have a lot that we can be learning, and so this is also a reminder for us to do what we can, where we can, when we can, um, to reconnect and to take our rightful place among all of our relations. And so with that, I will just invite us to take a moment to do a little bit of grounding. Just take a moment to be a body in a seat, or a body wherever you are right now. Feel the tug of gravity holding you to the earth, yet that gentle enough to allow you to move around. Take a moment to remind yourself or reconnect with your breath. It's always there, sometimes in the background, but a constant process of exchange. Taking in oxygen that fuels every cell in our body, releasing carbon dioxide, which eventually becomes useful to our green relatives. A constant reminder of reciprocity and our interconnection. And also a reminder of energy coming in on the in-breath, things expanding, and then relaxation and release on the out-breath, things settling down. So I invite you to take a couple more breaths in and out. And when you're ready, one big energizing breath in and then let it out, letting go of anything that you can that keeps you from being present with us today. Somehow I have turned off, or I've switched a setting and I don't know how I did it, but now people, when they turn their screens off, disappear. And I don't like it, but anyhow, I will fix this later. Right, so we have done our land acknowledgement and our grounding, and so we'll have a little opportunity to check in with each other. And does anyone have a check-in question for today? I think I was noticing the scents as I was walking around. And so I'm going to say the check-in question, what are you sniffing on the wind? What are some good smells you've been smelling lately? And the circle as I see it is, this is hard because I can't see, anyhow, is Ronnie, Justin, Angie, and Fee, Roland, April, and then me. So I will type that into the chat. And Ronnie, over to you for your check-in.
I went on a long walk in the woods after work and I smelled lots and lots of wildflowers. And I actually picked one that smells really nice. One of the names for them is blanket flower. And I think they're really pretty. So yeah, I will pass to Justin, Angie, and Fee.
I was trying to think about something I had been smelling, and I was on a walk, I think last week, and a few days in a row, I smelt something odd, not like a pleasant smell, but not horrible. And I was trying to put my finger on what it was, and then I remembered there's these little red bugs, and like if you touch them, you get like a weird smell on your fingers. They let off this weird smell. So I realized like that's what it was. It just I was out in the woods and I smelled something like those little bugs. And they were nowhere to be found. So it's mystery scent passed to Angela.
I all I can think about is food right now because I'm really hungry. So I'm thinking about Justin's soup that he made that always smells good. And although I haven't smelled it in a while, um, but Justin's hair always smells really good to me. Um, yeah, it smells like home. I pass to Roland.
I smell chicken stock because I'm making chicken stock, and I often have sensory experiences because I'm often making something. Over to April.
Now I'm imagining I'm smelling chicken stock as well. I bought a lavender plant yesterday and I squished the end of one of the little lavender things and I think I still smell it. That's me. Over to Ben.
I mowed the grass in the backyard a little bit. And so that's and it's, you know, actually it's more than that. There's this spring smell of green, you know, sort of fresh leaf kind of thing. But yeah, when I mowed the grass, it's still one of those, like, you know, you open the door and get that waft of fresh grass. Lovely. Alrighty, so let's take a look at our agenda for today. And so we do have some action items from the previous meeting. One is not just the Farm Guild, but Farm Guild I think has been settled. Is that right, Roland? Has the meeting been set for the Farm Guild? Okay, so we can click that off. And the other thing is a seasonal review, and it's a light touch, but it's kind of just hanging in the background. Certainly nothing that is urgent or a priority, but a nice thing to be mindful of and check in on. And we do have a couple agenda items already. One is revisiting the Food Planet Prize. In particular, we had talked about updating the website to match the criteria that they're looking for before submitting an application. And then also we talked about talking through Social Root's next steps. So those are ideas, but what we'll generally do is we'll go through our kind of North Star check-in and touch the bases, get reports from the guilds, and be accumulating any issues that we want to add to the agenda as we go. So we've done our grounding and check-in, and the next question is revisiting our North Star. And does anyone have any ideas for how to, like, there are lots of ways that we can ask that question. Does anyone have any questions that are resonating right now? We can always do our standard, which is where are we now? What are we doing? Why is it important? Where are we now? Or any variations.
Sorry, you kind of broke up and I didn't quite hear the question. Could you repeat?
Yes, the question is, does anyone have, there are lots of ways we can revisit the North Star. There are lots of questions that we can ask to, to inspire that conversation. Does anyone have a question that they want to offer?
What do you need to be reminded of for why you're here?
Any objections? Cool. Alrighty, then Ronnie, you're the head of the circle, but you can always pass, and I will type out our questions. Over to you.
I'm gonna pass to start. Over to Justin, Angie, and Pete.
That the right question, Roland?
That's the one I'll answer. Yeah, North Star, what do I need to be reminded of? Thinking, I guess I've been trying to let go of forcing or trying to force certain situations. And I need to be reminded of maybe Taoism and being like water and having this gentle flow. And just speaking my truth and not trying to do any more than that, or doing my work and then letting it go. I'll pass to Angela.
I mean, I think I always need to be reminded that I'm not alone in what I'm trying to do or what we are trying to do. Because sometimes it does feel that way. I could probably also do with a reminder that it's to loosen my grip on things that I hold dear, even if that's like the idea of the future. Um, yeah, I pass to Roland.
Uh, eh, I guess two interrelated things. One of them is that this is really all about the art of living and the art of living now. And the other is my long-term curiosity about where do I as an organism fit into my ecosystem so that I am um, uh, integrated, useful, beneficial. Over to April.
Well, I find that spring always really energizes me. I'm a spring baby. It might have something to do with that. But I have to be reminded to pace myself and maybe unfold in the way that my daffodils are in my front yard, one day at a time. Over to Ben.
And I will bounce to Ronnie.
Building the lifeboat is the lifeboat. Back to you, Ben.
And I got to say, Roland, I think this is a fantastic question. What do I need to? We're all in this together. What Angie said resonates with me, and gallows humor. That you know, sort of, I don't have to like it, and I can do the stomp my feet, shake my fist dance. I'm allowed, and for what good it's worth, you know. And I think, yeah, actually, I think that's the reminder. Is it's sort of like, yeah, letting myself have my little tantrums and then being gentle with myself. And you know, you ready to come in from the rain yet? Okay. So yeah, that's me. And generally we have we do twice around, so we've each had a chance to share, and then we go back around the circle and everyone has a chance to respond to what are you noticing, what's standing out to you, what's resonating with you, what's got your attention. So back over to you, Ronnie.
I guess what I'm noticing or what's kind of coming forward for me is we're all in different places on the landscape. And sometimes each of us is in a different place in the landscape from, you know, hour to hour, day to day. So there's there's space for all of it. So over to Justin, Angie, and Fee.
Yeah, what I'm thinking about is what I heard Roland mentioned, and like, where do I fit into this larger organism? And I'm thinking about that a lot. And Ronnie, what you just mentioned about like the landscape, and I just walked from the confluence of the North and South Thompson, and that's what Kamloops is named after. Kamloops means the confluence. But yeah, I'm just thinking about humanity being a river and flowing back into nature, or I don't know if that makes sense. Let's pass to Angela.
Yeah, I also resonate with what Ben said about having your tantrums and being gentle with yourself, especially afterwards, because it is okay to come undone. I think just as long as you find your way back, even if that takes longer than you would like. I think what also is coming up for me in kind of what Ronnie was talking about, I'm feeling a bit insecure about not like working specifically towards or on our lifeboat or a lifeboat. But I need to be reminded that even if I feel like I'm not directly working on it, I'm still working on it. Because even just thinking about working on things is working on things. I pass to Roma.
I'm combining a bunch of stuff. And I think, yeah, so the landscape, we're all in different places in the landscape, and even if we're on a path, that path exists in a shared landscape. And that what I'm hearing and what's resonating for me is there's no point in beating yourself up about being in the wrong place, or what you think of as the wrong place, and instead be curious about what's there, what's around you. Notice what's around you. Noticing as the gateway to curiosity, playfulness, and equanimity. Over to April.
Can I use that on a bumper sticker? I'm just reminded again that everybody needs remindering, and that's what I'm calling it these days. And with other groups that I work with, I'm suggesting that's a good practice to get into. People are curious about that, but also quite puzzled. So we'll see what happens with that. Over to Ben.
I am a big proponent of neologisms and puzzling uses of familiar terms and reclaiming language back to its roots. I think it's a way of verbing the language, keeps people on their toes. Yeah, I think I'm just having a really big ditto in terms of like what's resonating with me. Yeah, I think it's really a big ditto, and that kind of the power of compassionate awareness, and how, or Roland often phrases it as Maitri with radical honesty, and the both and of kind of seeing our craziness and yeah, we're crazy. Yep, we all do these things that we don't want to, or we think are a bad idea or whatever, and getting worked up about it just doesn't do much. It's not very functional. Well, this is fantastic. Oh, thanks, Roland, for a really great question. And And one of the things too, I just wanted to say sort of as an aside, I've noticed in some other groups that I work with that do a lot of kind of similar meeting practices, and they're not having the same kind of success, I would say, that we have. And I think it's because one of the things they don't do is take the time to really check in on where everyone is coming from at a purpose level. You know, why are you here? Why are you bothering to show up? And anyhow, I think this is kind of the essence of go slow to go fast. And I'm noticing in other groups that don't take the time to do this, that they just kind of keep bumping their head against walls. Anyhow, so we'll take a minute to review our annual plan and our seasonal plans. And this is kind of exciting. I'm noticing that we are clicking off projects that are a part of our seasonal plans. And so we had the Heartwork was starting off with gleaning lessons learned. That has morphed into identifying the badges for Heartwork. The Curiosity Guild is supporting that by starting to explore how the badge system works. So creating a container that Heartwork can pour their badges into. Finance is working on the bylaws, and we've had a big step forward there. The farm is working on the gardens and sort of general spring preparation. And outreach has already done some capture and share of the takeaways and the testimonials. So next up on the list, when we look at our annual plan, that means Heartwork is whilst it still needs to do I should put that on the list there, is the badges. But then starting to think about the pharmastery retreats is what's identified for next. And for the Curiosity Guild, continuing to work on the badges and then thinking about how to incorporate more reflection into what we do. And the farm and finance and legal, that it's all hands on deck until we get bylaws. And for the farm, lots of things on the list and a lot of things that get done a little bit at a time, eating the elephant kind of projects. And then and I think actually outreach is already working in the creating a process to encourage and capture more reflection. So that's what we said we would be working on, and how we said we would be progressing. And with that little asterisk that we also are about due for a seasonal review, but that is mostly at this point making sure that we're good for the next, that we really have our action plans kind of underway. So with that, let's go once around the circle for any observations, questions, reactions, anything around our annual seasonal plan. Ronnie, over to you.
We seem to be pretty on track, so that's cool. Yeah, over to Justin, Angie, and Pete.
I don't know if it's appropriate to say this here, but I am in agreement and I have no questions. Pass to Angela.
It's really great to hear, and I really want to get into that garden. And also thank you for including Fee. Always, you guys always do that, and that's really great. So thank you. Little side note, but I pass the roll on.
I too am agreed. Over to April.
And I too am agreed. I'm noticing that for me, this season feels different than the last season. But I'm also noticing things seem to be on track. So that's very comforting, I think. Over to Ben.
Yeah, I feel like the more we get into this, the more the seasonality of it, even when we're doing things that are not in the soil projects, there still seems to be this flavor that the work takes on. It's very interesting. Cool. All right. So next up is just a quick look at the calendar. And let me share. All right. So we were kind of due to have Woofer with us, and we don't, because this is the nature of woofers. And on our agenda for tomorrow, we've got an agreement circle, and I guess making sure that a reminder goes out. So we have our Europe-friendly agreement circle tomorrow morning at 7:30 Pacific, Heartwork on Thursday, Farm on Friday now has been moved to Friday afternoons. And then next week, we've got an early morning navigation session and then outreach and network on later on Tuesday. So that's Tuesday morning and then Tuesday afternoon. And then finance and legal next Friday. Roland.
The Curiosity Guild is missing, I think.
Oh, you're right. That's this Friday.
Yeah.
Yeah, at 2.
Yeah.
Right. Good catch. Okay,
We're all in this together.
right, and the whole purpose of looking at the calendar is just to kind of keep a heads up on what's coming up. And I think I'm just going to do a thumbs up if everything looks good, and or just open your mic if you've got any questions. Question?
Yeah. Is there any way that we could be added to this Google Calendar? Because the calendar on Asana is great, but it doesn't have the times listed.
Right. And actually, and that's the Asana is, we never really set it up to be a calendar. It just kind of, it's accidental that it gets the meetings listed there. But yeah, we can do that. That's
Thank you.
just, yep, cool. Anything else? Yeah, cool. Right. Comment from Ronnie about there's also events on the website. Okay, so now we are next up on the agenda.
I actually do have a question about calendar.
Okay.
Should I go ahead and put it as is into the next newsletter? I was gonna do a newsletter last week, but I never heard back about the calendar, so I haven't
Oh.
done the newsletter yet.
Okay.
Um,
Well, I think we've got the farm meeting established, and Roland, how close are we on Heartwork? On making a choice on how that is going to go?
It's still in progress.
So why don't we let's do it with how it is now and just a note around Heartwork.
okay. Awesome. Thank you.
Okie dokie, getting on to guild reports. Heartwork and philosophy. April and or Roland.
I got something typed up.
Whoa,
Cool.
excellent.
Everybody sounds surprised. That's hilarious. Ooh. So we had I'm very grateful. We had a very productive gathering consideration session for was that hard work? Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Gathering considerations for a scheduling protocol to help any guild set meeting times for international members. And it turned out to be really simple, and we're already kind of doing it. It's just staggering meeting times in the month from if it's every 2 weeks, once in the morning and once in the evening, so that people in Europe can attend the morning and people in Australia, Tasmania, whatever, can join in the evening. I think that's how that works out. Anyway, it was really good. I'm really grateful, and I think it's something that to keep in mind for all the guilds as a go-to when there's an international membership. And we also talked about well, the discussion on lessons learned moved into discussing the hard work badges. It was kind of a yin yang discussion because we were discussing lessons learned, and then we were discussing badges. And then we realized that talking about the badges helped to zero in on the lessons learned, and talking about the lessons learned helped figuring out the badges. And it looks like right now the badging is focused a lot on facilitation, which kind of makes sense. We've got two very experienced and seasoned facilitators. So that seems to be naturally low-hanging fruit. And at the next Heartwork circle, we'll be looking at themes and elements for the badges, so sort of making it a bit clearer. So I am strongly recommending to Heartworkers to review the Established Heartwork and Philosophy Badges milestone in Asana to prep for that meeting. And then there was also something about the Venn diagram circles on the Miro board, but I didn't know what to say about that. And Ben has it right there. So can I pass it over to either April or Ben to talk about that, because I don't know what to say about it.
Well, all I'm going to say is I think Ben has organized some ways of capturing clumps of topics, and where we had the beginning idea that they belong. Anyway, over to you, Ben.
Yeah, that's it. What we had done is we had a post-it, a different colored post-it that said big stuff, NACS agreements, etc. And we were clustering around it, and I just made the circles so that they kind of visually, we could see. And then I did it. This was our wall, just turning the post-its into bubbles. And then I started playing with it, and I copied it so that nothing was lost, right? It's we still have where we were, but I started to move some things around because I was realizing there's a kind of a development where there's specific tooly techniquey kinds of things, and then there's kind of packages that those fit in, or there's techniques, and then there's mastery of those techniques, knowing when and how to use them. So the stuff that we were calling NACs and agreements is kind of indicators of some proficiency with a tool. And then the big stuff is really like sort of the context of why we're doing it, why we think it's important, which also provides some information about, it's working well if you're getting the outcomes that you're going for. And if you're not getting those outcomes, then something needs to kind of shift. But anyhow, that's where we are. And as Roland was saying, the next step is to continue to play with this and try to get it into something that looks like a practical toolkit.
Cool, thank you. I wanted to check in with the coordination group. Who did we decide would take on the land acknowledgement training wheel document checklist type thing?
I think we decided it was Heartwork.
Heartwork? Okay.
Yeah, because it's about how do you establish it's part of establishing the shared context or whatever.
Cool. So that's all I have to say. Anything that either April or Ben would like to add? And otherwise, are there any questions, comments, concerns, etc.? Over to, I'll pass it over to April.
No comments or concerns, but, well, one comment is that I'd like to be involved in looking at the land acknowledgement training wheels. I'm working on that for some other assignments I'm doing, so it might mesh. And the other thing is I'm going to be away for 3 weeks. I'm going to have to leave Heartwork and Philosophy in your capable hands. Although you can text me if you like, if that would help, but I'm away other than that. Thank you.
Any questions or comments? Alrighty, so let me just. So next up is Curiosity Guild. And AKA Research and Learning. And I have been, so we have another meeting on Friday, and we just started really unpacking what the badge project looks like. What's the research side of the badge project. And I also have on my to-do list sending out reminder or reconnecting with the research project people, but I just haven't had a chance to get to it because of other deadlines. But so we're kind of in mid-conversation about what we'll be doing with the container for the badges. And I think, it just makes sense right now. We're kind of bringing people up to speed on what we've already talked about. And I think we're up to speed, and now the next step, I think, is starting to think about what are the concrete actions that we take. And so I think that's where we are. If anyone else who was at the meeting would like to add, just dive right in.
I have nothing to add. That was good. Thank you.
Okay, then I guess moving on, finance and legal. This is also a nice, easy, quick update. We met with our lawyers last Friday. The conversation went really well, I felt. They have marching orders to draft a share structure, membership structure, and stewardship council ideas. Basically, they will give us language to do what we asked them to do. And we're feeling pretty confident. I'm feeling pretty confident that they understand what we're asking. And we'll have something by next Friday. So we should have something, and then we'll be meeting without the lawyers at our next regular meeting, which is next Friday, and to discuss those changes. Hopefully we can say this looks great, and and then we have our draft, or we might have one more back and forth. So we think we are within striking distance of having a set of legal bylaws. Anything you want to add, Roland?
Once again, that was excellent. And I have nothing to add. Back to you.
Any questions or observations from anyone? I think we'll popcorn.
That is exciting to hear. Yeah, very cool.
All right. I'm gonna save time so you don't have to watch me typing. Next up, farm, food, and housing.
For farm, food, and housing, we actually canceled the last meeting because it was it was in conflict with one of the regularly offered elements of the cohort. Blah-de-da. So we've, as we mentioned when we were looking at the calendar, we've just switched it to every other Friday at 4:30 starting this week. So we'll see how that goes. And that's it for food and housing. If there's no questions or concerns, then back to you, Ben.
4:30 or 4:30?
4:30.
Okay.
And that is because there's some people who can make half of the meeting, and we'll just see how it goes.
Once again, scheduling
Yep.
nightmare.
Well, and it's a little bit.
This is the only my only authoritarian impulse in the world is everyone should be forced to have one calendar and make anyhow. Any other comments or questions about farm food and housing? All right, and last up, outreach.
So at our meeting last week, Anna from Social Roots came and guided us through how to use Social Roots, and we had discussion about sort of different scenarios and strategies and things like that. So that was really useful. Next steps. I've been pretty slow on the testimonials front just because this spring has been nuts for me, but I feel like I'm kind of hopefully moving into a more stable spot, and I want to keep going through our transcripts, which are now auto-generated, which is really nice, and pulling things. And I also have some I haven't even posted yet. And I didn't write this down, but I had a phone call with Austin last week to talk through some more relational social media things, primarily my idea to basically recruit folks from the cohort to use specific hashtags and telling their stories about their lifeboats. So we had a conversation about it, and I can continue to check in with him about sort of getting that going at some point in the future. And yeah, other than that, I imagine after our conversation about Social Roots tonight, we will be doing more to kind of fiddle around and set things up on there as well as part of our guild work. Ben, anything to add? Cool. Any questions, comments, concerns?
Yeah, I
Oh.
attended the meeting also, and I wanted to say I think the testimonials are good, and from what I can see, we're getting some positive reaction from. Well, we've posted one. I guess part of it is figuring out how often we want to put them out.
Yeah.
So that is my additional comment.
Awesome. Thank you.
Cool. All right. Well, so we've got 2 remaining items on the agenda, the ones that we started off with, revisiting the Food Planet Prize, and then also the Social Roots. How do we want to work with that? Does anyone have anything else that you want to get on the agenda? All righty. And do we
Actually,
want
I have
to?
something, sorry.
Okay.
Is there any specific article that you or anyone else wants me to put in the newsletter for April?
Well, I just posted something to Substack that was a ChatGPT thing. It's longish, but it's actually that could work.
Okay.
Yeah. I have something else in the works, but it's not worked yet. So
And
it was kind of, I will say too, it's the first time I played with ChatGPT, and I was really pleasantly surprised with the results, and it was interesting. I think I got a better sense too of, I don't think AI the questions that I ask, I didn't get any answers that I didn't know already. but I found it as a really great way of summarizing complex ideas in like it did the summary in a clear way that it would have taken me forever to boil it down. So anyhow, that's all. And okay, so do we want to any preferences on which order we take it? I think let's take it in this order because I think that also the Revisiting the Food Planet Prize, I think it's really just a question of figuring out who's going to do it and when, because it's not a complicated. All we need to do is look at the criteria that they have in their description and just make sure that there's some kind of reference to those points where it makes sense. And I think for the most part, we already, I mean, that's part of the reason why it looks interesting. So I guess the question is really, it's where should this live so that it gets some attention? And I don't know, should we do once around just to like gathering considerations? So yeah, let's do gathering considerations around the Food Planet Prize. Ronnie, over to you, and you can always pass.
Well, I see the website updating piece as an outreach thing, and I'm happy to do that. If I think it would be cool if at least one other person reviews the website for the content stuff. And then any suggested changes I can make. Yeah, it would just be text changes, so I don't think it would be hard. That's my considerations. Over to Justin, Angie, and Thee.
I'm going to pass.
Pass to roll on.
Well, we have likely talked about this, and this frequent reminders plays into it. What are the different parts to consider? So identifying what the different parts, or if we have had this discussion already, what are the different parts that we identified, and how does that get distributed? So we've identified one, it's the website, and but then is there anything else? Are there any other guilds to pull into it? So over to April.
I think there probably are other guilds to pull into it. I'm not sure which ones, but yeah, I think there needs to be more guilds involved. And I find I know next to nothing about this prize except from having overheard various people talking about it, but I don't actually know what it's about. So I need to do some research on that. And if I need to do some research, maybe there's a place for, the 10 points you should know about the Food Planet Prize and why we think we should be involved with it. Kind of a short briefing note of some kind. Now, I'm willing to take notes when I find out something about this and use that as a briefing note, if that makes sense, but it won't be until mid-May, probably, that happens for me, from me. Over to Ben.
Well, and actually, I was thinking I need to remind myself because I haven't looked at it in months, many months, half a year. I have a vague memory that the website was pretty straightforward and the prize itself is very straightforward. But that is, I think, so that's one action is who's gonna pull that together. And And the other, in terms of what other guilds might be involved, there's only 5. So outreach we got covered. Farm food and housing, I think, is not in any direct way implicated. Finance, maybe, if there's anything, I think finance is maybe other guilds keep an eye out when you're reviewing to see if there's something to ask finance about. But at this point, there may be something in there about how we have to demonstrate readiness for the money. So that may be a finance question. I think research and the Curiosity Guild is implicated because it really is about, the kind of the research project side of it. And Heartwork, I don't know except for like tone, basically as a review, and maybe it's bring Heartwork in on proposed changes. Just, kind of not necessarily that Heartwork has to do anything creative, but yeah, so it's not, I think, really it is a research Curiosity Guild led. It's either Outreach or Curiosity Guild. I think those are the two, and then probably up to us to point to some other people for reviews when necessary. That makes sense? I think the big question is, how do we light a fire under it? Because it's not going to take care of itself, and how does it fit in with other things? Once more round just so it seems like we're kind of coming to an agreement. How are people with that? Does it feel like is it getting clearer? Over to you, Ronnie.
Yeah, it's making me think about possibly a more structured website review that happens at least annually, but even seasonally. Does this reflect where we are right now? Has anybody learned anything recently that, we want to change some language and Curiosity Guild definitely comes to mind as being, I'm kind of thinking that like Curiosity and Heartwork are kind of like, here's what we want to say. And Outreach is like, okay, here's how we're going to say it on this platform. And here's how we're going to say it over here and to this person. But I think sometimes the website, we just almost forget about it when we're implementing changes in other ways. And so if we had a more seasonal review, it would just kind of be all integrated. And because even though I'm able to log in and change things, when website stuff comes up, I feel some anxiety because I'm still not super comfortable. So yeah, that's all I have for now. Over to Justin, Angie, and Pete.
I agree with April that I need to come up to speed on what the prize is about. Pass to Angela.
Also in agreement, I need to come up to speed. Pass to Roland.
I agree with what Ronnie was saying. Actually, I thought that was all of it was a good idea, having regular reviews of the website and of pulling in Heartwork and the Curiosity Guild in terms of even because I was also noting earlier, Ronnie was talking about having more eyes on what goes on the website, and I was thinking, well, that's the Heartwork and or the Curiosity Guild could be those other eyes, and then we also are able to that way have input from different perspectives, and. I was wondering, as a way of getting up to speed on something like this, is there something that the either Outreach, Heartwork, or the Curiosity Guild could put together to get people starting to get their hands dirty on stuff as a way of sort of like a it kind of like mentoring and badging process. So over to April.
I'm agreeing with everything that everybody has said so far. Over to Ben.
Yeah, ditto. And I just posted the link to the prize, and it is a one-pager, and then there's a link to how they evaluate nominees. And those are the two, and that is it's probably the equivalent of about 5 pages worth of information. So I think we can all share that out. And I'm thinking also of sorry, I've got too many screens and I was getting confused, so I had to stop the share. So what I'm hearing in terms of next steps is so I, as the caretaker for the Curiosity Guild, will take the lead, and partly there's the 10 things to know. So I will send out the link to all of the guilds just to say, can you take a look at it? And no, I'm sorry, I'm jumping. That's to the. I like the idea that we do a like seasonal website review, and it doesn't. All that means is go take a scan of the website from a Heartwork lens, from a and then we can put something on the coordination meeting to talk it through. Did anyone notice anything? Did everyone do it? And did anyone notice anything? But I think for the Food Planet Prize, I can send that because we do want feedback from the Heartwork perspective, from finance, and from, is there anything that you're noticing it from your perspective? So I'll take the lead in sending that out, along with a little, here are what I think the key points are. Here's the link. What do you think? And shouldn't take very long. Shouldn't take much time for people to do. All right, cool. That's great. I think we have, actually, I'm sorry. So that's my understanding of the proposal. And once around, can you live with it, or do you have any changes that you would like to make? Ronnie, over to you.
I accept the proposal and I have nothing to add. Over to Justin, Angie, and Fee.
I'm in agreement. Nothing to add.
Nothing to add. In agreement. Pass to roll on.
Yeah, that sounds good. I agree. Over to April.
I agree. I pass on to Ben.
Close enough for now. All right, social roots. So I think all of us were there. Oh no, April, you weren't. So I don't know how. Actually, this is probably a good way of bringing April into the loop, which is just what were like your key takeaways for anybody who was there. What were your takeaways and or ideas for next steps? And Ronnie, if you're there, over to you. And if not, we'll just come back to Ronnie. I'm guessing that's a come back to Ronnie. So over to Justin, Angela, and Pete.
I'm just racking my brain trying to remember the social roots meeting. I know we were quite distracted, so we need to rewatch the video if it was posted, but not right now. Pass to Angela.
Ditto to what Justin said. Pass to Roland.
I will. I have downloaded the video and I will upload it to YouTube tonight. And well, and it was good, and for me, it was still very abstract. And it's social media, computery stuff, and even though I talk about it a lot, I find it daunting and difficult to grasp. So that's why I was suggesting talking about it to figure out how we can use it. It seems like it's a powerful, not just like an organizing tool in a group, but also across networks. And yeah, so it's just I need maybe I need probably group discussions around what to do with it and how would it be useful for the Lifeboat Academy. Yeah, so I'm also trying to wrap my head around it. Over to April.
I guess skip until, yeah. Yeah, I'm in the same boat in terms of like still trying to wrap my head around it. At the simplest level, it is a very slick listserv where it's easy to segment. And so one of the practical things that I liked about it, because I often have questions about who should I email this? A reminder about a meeting or notes from a meeting or, and so I like that it's a kind of opt-in system where if people are joining the subgroups, they're saying, I want to be in the loop. And then they can, have a daily or a weekly or whatever, and I don't have to worry about it. I can just post to that. And I also like that I think it's a better filing system for meeting notes. Or actually, I think I don't want it to be, I hate minutes from meetings. I think they're horrible to use because you have to remember when the meeting happened. And that's, you usually spend most of your time. Was that in April? I thought we talked about it in April, but I went back to those minutes and I looked and they weren't there. But then, oh, right, it was at and so I think it's useful. We often joke about that we have that written down. And I think if we have working agreements as notes for each of the guilds, like not necessarily meeting minutes, although that might be a way of almost like a index. But so it's about the badge project. It's not about the Tuesday meeting. But that I think kind of almost thinking of it like a filing system, not for long-term things, but really just for what are the current projects, what are the current things in development. Anyhow, so those are some concrete ideas, but I agree. I feel like I'm curious about how we might use it more as a network, but I still have to wrap my head around that. So for now, I'll pass back to Ronnie. And it's takeaways from what the social roots.
I like the idea of having it be like by project. So like badge project, and then here's the latest meeting. This is what we talked about in terms of this. And I think there will be people who are like, I missed the Tuesday outreach meeting. I want to know what they talked about at that meeting. So I'm kind of wondering if we could do a both and kind of situation and not actually list all the meeting notes in that post, but like Tuesday outreach meeting with the date. Here were the topics discussed, and then here's the link to the YouTube video. With the auto-generated transcription. And then any action items. Like I like how people can say, I volunteer for this, or I don't have time for this, or whatever. And in terms of using it, my proposal is just start really simple and develop, here's our protocol that all the guilds are going to use for what to post after a meeting. So make a note for the guild's project, and then what do we post? And then over time, we'll start to have like everything kind of in one place for each guild. And then from there, we can kind of figure out how else we want to use it and see how people are engaging. The other thing I really like about Social Roots is it makes people's engagement levels really clear, both to us and to them. So in terms of reciprocity, I really hope people utilize that feature so that anybody involved knows, okay, this is my current engagement level. Here's what more I could be doing if I want to. Here's, kind of what the options are. And here's where I am right now. Maybe I'm not able to do as much, but just so everybody can kind of be aware of who's who and what's going on, I think. Yeah, I like that aspect. Yeah, that's all I have for now. I don't know who to pass to.
I guess, well, over to April, because I think we've all had a chance to. So April, is any of this sinking in? Do you have any questions or observations?
This seems to take care of many of the things that we found to be barriers or irritations in terms of, trying to keep up and digest information, for one thing. And I also think it provides a filing system, which means that we'll be able to track back again. And we may be able to do that indefinitely if there's only a small number of us involved. But if there get to be more networks and more people involved, then the tracking back of the information and where it is, it gets more critical over time. And so I really kind of like this in terms of expansion. And I think having protocols about how to do stuff is sort of like little procedure sheets. So you might forget what you're supposed to be doing with this, but then you can look that up and get back on track easily. I can see all sorts of potential for networking networks, which would be the next stage on, I'd be thinking. So I want to explore this, and I want to see which aspects of it can be done expeditiously. That's a word I just made up. Can be done quickly and efficiently and without a lot of thought, and then which bits of it need the deeper thought and the consideration and the thoughtfulness about it. That's it. Over to Ben.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I really like, Ronnie, where you're going. That makes a lot of sense, and obviously, I like the start simple, and and I was thinking, April, when you were talking about, sort of the problems and the irritations, I wonder if this might also be useful, and this might be in that category of requires a little more consideration, but starting to tease apart 9891 Spalding Road from the Lifeboat Academy and other lifeboats. And then, and actually starting to treat our projects, having a space where you can, and then if it's a tool we're using, and Ronnie, you're organizing in Austin, why not have your own group that is, linked to the Lifeboat Academy, but is a separate group, and And then we can more trials, you know, like more opportunities to experiment with how it might work for those groups. Anyhow, that may require a little bit more thinking through, but it does feel like the next sort of like the first not simple step might be thinking about how we represent the other lifeboats in the system. Once around, we're getting close to time, and we kind of have a proposal here, and but I'm not sure where it would live or who would take it on, or if we have enough clarity on what's actually being agreed to. So I guess once around, in terms of where do you think we are in terms of next steps? Or do we have a proposal? Do we need more time to talk about it? You know, where do we go from here? Ronnie, over to you.
I could draft a protocol for posting on Social Roots after meetings for each guild. I mean, each guild, it would be the one single protocol. And then people can just try it out after your next couple meetings. And obviously, you know, we can troubleshoot, we can ask each other questions and ask for help if we need it. Just to sort of get used to even logging in and being on there and seeing, yeah, what we can do. And I still need to update our social media protocol with the hashtag stuff, so those can try to like do those in tandem and then share them out so that we're all kind of on the same page in terms of networking. Yeah, over to Justin, Angie, and Fee.
Yeah, so I'm where I was before. I've got to rewatch the video and learn more about Social Roots. And I'll use a word that I've learned from the Lifeboat Academy, grok. I think I'm beginning to grok how Social Roots will be a game changer for the, you know, when there's a network of 100+ lifeboats. How it would be a powerful tool to coordinate, and just thinking like specifically about like a badge system and yeah, how to get every lifeboat to interview their members and list their strengths and what they would want to learn, things like that. Like I can see how Social Roots seems to be the perfect system. Pass to Angela.
If I am understanding the prompt or the question correctly, like how do we get the word out there or people on Social Roots?
I don't think we're necessarily at where we're promoting it. We're thinking of using it mostly internally.
Okay. I mean, for me, I would benefit from maybe like a specific offering meeting, if that's the right description. Just like an allotted time where the group of us could get together and noodle around on social networks or social, and just like, yeah, figure it out together. Because I often think, oh yeah, like I've got something new to explore, and then get distracted. So if it was a group, I would be more obliged to show up. I pass to Roland.
I have a new mouse that's really difficult to use, so I'm sorry if there's pauses. I like Ronnie's proposal, and otherwise I'm still not quite sure what the larger proposal is, or at least it's not so clear to me. yeah, I'm just going to leave it there for now. It could be that I just need to think about it or reread the notes or something over to April.
Thank you. I'm sort of seeing the whole system as kind of either a web or a net or a spine with lots of offshoots from it that will help to hold together everything else that we do. That's my current conception of what this is. And I feel like we're not quite at a proposal stage maybe yet, but very close. And I'm starting to get real interested in what this is. Over to Ben.
I think we are. I think both. My sense is that what Ronnie is suggesting is, in some quarters, this is called the MVP, the minimum viable product,
Right.
right? And it's sort of what is the bare minimum that we can start with. And that's the whole point of, we don't need to know anything more than that. So in just doing some simple stuff, we'll get a little bit more familiar with the basics and a little bit better idea of what it might turn into. So for the short-term proposal, like Roland, your question about the bigger proposal, there isn't one, and there doesn't need to be one yet, I think is what we're saying. So we'll, and I think that also when Ronnie puts something together, we'll figure, we will have to confront what we're not understanding, you know, and then we'll sort some stuff out. Yeah, I think that sounds good. And Angela, I like your idea, and I think that's something to talk about, maybe, you know, where that happens. You know, can we do, like, does it make sense to spend some time in one of the outreach meetings doing it, or do we want to schedule a separate time? Because I like the idea, but I also am really pressed for time lately. So finding additional time where that could happen is tricky. And I don't have to be there, but anyhow, I think, especially in the interest of time, I feel like we've got it good enough for now, safe enough to try. Ronnie will draft something specifically around, let's call it phase 1, trial of how to use Social Roots, which is really focused on meeting notes and projects. And then we'll see where that goes. And any objections? Awesome. We've got an agreement, and we've got time for a checkout. So I think, just to keep it simple, last thoughts for the good of the cause, and a chance to say goodnight. So over to you, Ronnie.
I think we're moving and shaking and keeping on. So go team. Over to Justin, Angie, and Fee.
Yeah, I guess I'll say thank you all, and it's always nice to be in circle with everyone. Pass to Angela.
Yes, as usual, many gratitudes. Grateful for all of you for keeping the shit contained, because I often feel like mine is not. And yes, it is great to get in circle with you guys, and thank you for your patience with us and Fee, and allowing us to just show up where we're able to, how we're able to. Do you have last words for the great of the cause, Fee? Now you want to be quiet? That's okay. Steve passes to Roland.
Well, have a good week, everyone, or till next time. And yeah, thanks for collectively taking these next few steps in this ongoing journey over to April.
Ditto all of that. And I'll see some of you on Thursday. The rest of you I won't see for some time, but
You'll
yeah.
see me tomorrow.
we'll see you tomorrow, many times tomorrow, and the next day. And what Ronnie says, keep on keeping on. Thank you. Over to you, Ben.
And thanks, Angie, for saying that we keep this shit together. It's all done with mirrors. It's so nice to spend time with you all, and yeah, keep the faith, and we'll see you soon. So bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.